Namaskar, Nileshok in another episode. This is a continuation of question and answer that I am doing in response to a note to me by one individual with initials NB. Let's go to the presentation itself. If you have watched the previous episodes in the last few weeks, then you know what I'm talking. Today we will discuss the Mahabharata evidence of Venus going retrograde near Nakshatra Purvashada. And the 2 years that we will do this exercise for are two claims, one by myself, 5561 BCE, and the other by Sri Vedviraryaji, 3163 BCE. Now, since Vedviraryaji calls his claim as 3162 BCE, just keep in mind that for apples to apples comparison, when we are looking at the simulations, at least using, let's say, Voyager 4.5, we have to take his year as 3163 BCE for a parallel comparison of 5561 BCE. But essentially, we are comparing exactly what I have done versus what he has done. The discrepancy is due to the changes in software. You must know that. If you don't know it and you are not comfortable, stop the video, become comfortable with astronomy software, and then come back. So if we take his number that he typically uses as 3162 BCE, and I'm not saying any one of us is wrong, it's just the convention, depending on the software that you are using. So if we have to do that comparison, it will be like negative 5560, that is those many years before 0 or before 1, and negative 3162 BC. So just become comfortable with this. Okay, and now what is the question? Again, as I wrote, or as I said before, that NB wrote a long letter. I don't think I will ever have the ability, at least in this format, to ever respond to all of his questions, because some of the questions, actually I did respond to him and ask him to go back to my books, my blogs, my additional videos, and you know what, I do not have ability to specifically select some videos and let you know. No, that's just unfortunately not possible. So what I would say is, those people who are curious in knowing about our itihasa, knowing about the scientific method, logical reasoning, way of drawing the proper conclusions, how to think properly, they should read all three books of mine, also my blogs and many of my talks. In this episode, let's refer to one of his comment and partly a question. Okay, he says, while you showed some discrepancy for Mars retrograde near Chitraswati for the year 3162 BCE claimed by Sri Vedviraryaji, now he's referring to my discussion with Sri Vedviraryaji at HyperQuest, where we had a debate about these 2 years, 5561 BCE versus 3162 BCE. And he says, while I expressed or showed some discrepancy for the year claimed by Vedviraryaji when it came to the Mars retrograde near Chitraswati, that is correct. However, we will not discuss that in this episode because it will be a long discussion. NB says, you, that is I, express agreement when it comes to, or when it came to Venus retrograde movement as described in the Mahabharata text, where the Mahabharata text says Venus went retrograde near Nakshatra Purva Bhadrapada. His question, NB's question, in such cases, how does a common man to decide who is right and who is wrong? Okay, well, interesting question. Well, the point is, Sri Vedvir Aryaji has not specified his theory, and I will take that issue not limited to Sri Vedvir Aryaji, but frankly, practically 99% of the Mahabharata dating researchers. Okay, none of them, I'm saying these numbers, like practically everyone, with a very few exceptions, and even there are issues with those people, no one has bothered to clearly state what their theory is. That's how pathetic the situation is when it comes to this area of the dating of ancient Indian events, specifically Itihasa texts like Mahabharata and Ramayana. So this is not limited to, this criticism is not pointed at, or at least limited to Sri Vedvir Aryaji. And so NB is asking, how does a common man to decide? Well, common man has to learn the Pancha Avayava. Common man has to learn Nyaya Darshana. Common man has to understand the 5 elements of the logic of scientific method. The common man has to read books of Sir Karl Popper, and actually take this journey that must begin with Shraddha, and it should not stop at Shraddha, but it should continue through Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, Samadhi, Pradnya. Okay, a sharpened intellect which has a refined sense of scientific acumen and refined sense of logical reasoning skills. It takes time, it takes tapasya, it takes determination, everything. Okay, but still, in order to help such people who are curious or who are committed to build such skills, I'm creating this episode, okay, or I'm creating this video series. So how do I respond to that? Well, in this particular episode, I will not look at the Mars retrograde near Chitra and Swati and my specific critique or criticism of Sri Vedvir Aryaji's claim for the corroboration of that evidence. I'll take that some other time. But I did express the agreement when it came to the Venus retrograde movement near Purva Bhadrapada. Okay, and the both years, so essentially what I'm saying is both years 5561 BCE and 3163 BCE, both actually will corroborate, will validate, will qualify for this one piece of evidence where Venus is shown going retrograde near Purva Bhadrapada. Okay, and just then I'll come quickly to this last part of his question, how does a common man to decide who is right, who is wrong? Well, you just don't decide based on the validation or testing of one piece of evidence. And therefore you need a theory, because theory, as Einstein said, it is the theory that decides what can be observed. So once the theory is stated, immediately it defines the constraints on which evidence must be extracted and must be included into objective testing, and which evidence must be excluded. Isn't that interesting? Now, excluded not forever, but as far as the testing of that theory goes, certain evidence, even if it's evidence in another setup, it's excluded. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the truth likeness score to answer that second part of the question. Okay, but let's go with this Shukra reference, the Venus reference. The reference comes in Bhishma Parva. In fact, the Mahabharata Parva related to the Mahabharata War has close to 8 different descriptions of Venus, and we are only looking at one of them, but it's one of the spectacular one. Okay, you have already seen me talking about Venus, Mars and Mercury near each other on the last and 18th day of the war. Okay, that's a great reference. This one is similar, but at least from a visual point of view, it's even more spectacular. Let's look at the reference. It says Shukram Proshtapade Purve Samaruhya Vishampate Uttaretu Parikramya Sahita Pratyudikshite. That Venus was seen near Samaruhya, okay, like becoming arud, like coming close to, coming near, riding on, whichever way you want to take it, meaning somewhere there. And near where? Near Purva Proshtapada, that is Purva Bhadrapada, and it was shining there. Okay, and what did it do? Uttaretu Parikramya Sahita Pratyudikshite. It turned to the north and made a parikrama, okay, a circumambulation near this Purva Bhadrapada nakshatra. So what I am showing you is here December 8, 5561 BCE. This is just after the Mahabharata War. Mahabharata War ended on 2nd December 5561 BCE. So about a month plus after that. Now, so what's happening here? Pandavas are on the bank of Ganga, or maybe just briefly have returned to Hastinapur and have met Bhishma at Kurukshetra. In fact, if you look at the date December 8, this is the time Yudhishthir every morning is leaving from Hastinapur, going to Kurukshetra, spending a day with Bhishma and getting advice from Bhishma. What is happening in the sky? Well, this is the time when Venus has come. Now see, think of this green red line here. This is horizontal line, is that horizon, but we have to ignore horizon for this particular exercise. Okay, just focus on this other line, slanted line, which is the path of the sun. And with respect to the sun, okay, so think of this Venus, which is now to the right of that line, so it's to the north of that line, was actually, it came like, if you follow my arrow, it came like this, and here it turned to the north and is turning backwards. In fact, then it's going to go back. Of course, this is a relative motion. Everyone should understand that. If you don't understand, this video is not for you. You need to go back and learn the basics of astronomy, what is retrograde and relative motions and so on. So Venus came like this to the south, then turned, crossed the ecliptic, turned northward, went back as far as Shatabhishesh and came back and then continued its journey. Now, what is the significance of that? Again, this is astronomy 101. When Venus goes retrograde, it makes some of these shapes in the sky. For example, it will go and make a circle like this, circumambulation, parikrama, pradakshina, something like this, and that is a signature of Venus doing retrograde. In some other cases, and we will not go into the details of that, that's beyond the scope of this video or even Mahabharata dating, because that's the basics of astronomy 101, is that Venus during retrograde, depending on multiple factors, instead of making a parikrama, it may make a shape in the sky like an English letter Z or Z. Okay, so that can also happen, and hopefully I will able to show you a demonstration of that. Now, what I'm showing you is for 5561 BC. So yes, Venus came here and turned towards the north near Purva Bhadrapada, then went backward all the way to Shatabhishesh, and thus it made a parikrama in the vicinity of Nakshatra Proshtapade Purve, Purva Proshthapada, Purva Bhadrapada, and just a beautiful corroboration of this Mahabharata evidence for the year 5561 BCE. Now what I want to do is actually take you to simulation. Okay, let me make sure I am doing it right. Okay, so let me take you to the simulation. Now what I have done is that same simulation that I showed you the picture for, like December 8, 5561 BCE. Now to show the validation as given in the Mahabharata text, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take all of us 1 year back, so 5562 BCE, and the first day of the first month, which is 1st of January, and I'm going to select this. Okay, let's do that. Now here is my Venus. Okay, we have locked the Venus, so as if like we are going to ride on Venus, okay, through this ecliptic. But keep in mind, this is going to tell us how it was seen from the sky, sorry, seen from the earth, okay, in the sky, in the earth's sky. Okay, so what I'm going to do is a step change of day 1, and so I'm going to do that, and I should have closed my other applications, but anyways, okay, so let's begin. So it's a step change of 1 day. Notice what is happening. Okay, we started on the 1st of January 5562 BCE. I would say that's approximately 1 year 10 months before the actual time of the Mahabharata War. Notice what Venus is doing. The middle line is the ecliptic. Notice what Venus has done. It's gone into retrograde. Okay, it's going to go on the other side of the sun. Okay, so from the stars, from the time it's seen as a planet, bright planet after sunset, to seeing it as a bright planet before sunrise, and now again it has become turned to its regular motion, as if chasing the sun now. Okay, and you can see this beautiful dance of Venus, Mercury around the sun. Okay, so you can see the sun in the picture here, and of course Venus is where we are riding. Now what we are doing is, we already saw Venus going retrograde in the area of Pushya and Punarvasu. Venus goes retrograde about every 2 years, approximately speaking. And now the time comes, I'm going to stop the clock about and around the time of the Mahabharata War. The year is 5561 BCE. Right now the month is that of the May, and we are going to go up to October. Okay, that's when I will briefly stop this simulation. Okay, so Venus continues, you can watch it, and by the way, you can you can pause it, but also watch this particular portion of the simulation multiple times by, so to say, rewinding the video. Okay, all right, so we are getting close to October. Okay, and there, so 14 October. So if I want to do 15, 16, and this is the first day of the Mahabharata War. Notice the situation again. I want to focus on the retrograde motion of Venus, so I will not spend much time here, but this is the first day of the Mahabharata War. Okay, all right, and now if you noticed, long time before the Mahabharata War, Venus had gone retrograde near Pushya and Punarvasu area. Okay, that we noticed. If you have missed it, you can rewind this video and watch it again. But now let's continue. And this is the first day of the Mahabharata War. Okay, the Mahabharata War is now over. Okay, Pandavas are on the bank of Ganga for a month or so. Now they return to Hastinapur. Coronation of Yudhishthira takes place. Okay, and now this is time for Bhishma Nirvana, that is at the end of January. Okay, January 31st. And what did you see around this time? Okay, that essentially Venus, I'm going to rewind it. Okay, let's do that. Essentially Venus came in the area of Purva Bhadrapada. Okay, turn northward. So I'm actually going I'm doing this rewinding, so to say, okay? Like sometime they show the film during the cricket match slow motion, okay? So we are going backwards in time, so to say. So this is what I want you to watch it again. So here, okay? So this is after the Mahabharata War, okay? So now look what it is doing. Okay, the Venus is to the south of the ecliptic. Now it's crossing the ecliptic. Where is it crossing? Near Purva Bhadrapada. It turned to the north and now backwards, making a parikrama going towards Shatabhishesh. Now it's going to turn forward again and complete that parikrama near Purva Bhadrapada and continue in the eastern direction. This is the classic retrograde motion. It happens in the vicinity of different nakshatras. The closest it happened near the Mahabharata War, that Vyasadeva tells us, it happened near Purva Bhadrapada. And how did it happen? By this time it happened where Venus made a complete circle in the sky like a parikrama, and Vyasadeva beautifully described this as Shukram Proshtapade Purve Samaruya Vishampate Uttaretu Parikrama. Okay, if you know the word parikrama, you will get goosebumps. That's exactly what Venus did. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to set another date and jump to 3164, because in this software apples to apples it is 3163, which is where Sri Vedvir Aryaji is claiming the year of Mahabharata War. Okay, now, so as I said, this particular evidence of Venus described in Mahabharata, because this is a recurring phenomenon, it's a near earth phenomenon, and it is going to happen often, not every year, not every 2 years, but every few years you will able to accomplish the same kind of simulation, which is to say, namely Venus going retrograde near Purva Bhadrapada. Okay, so where I started this simulation now is the 1st of January 3164. Again we have locked Venus, and let's begin. So notice the first time is going to go retrograde. Otherwise, what does it do? Sometime it is to the south of the ecliptic, other times it is to the north of the ecliptic, right? The way it is right now, it is to the north of the ecliptic. Okay, we are in the area of Punarvasu Pushya, and notice what it is doing. When it goes retrograde, it turns back, and notice what happens. It crosses the sun as if sun has gone further to the east. This is when a Venus that is seen at the sunset turns into a Venus which is seen before sunrise. Okay, that's what that crossing of Venus to the sun, okay, that's what it causes. So we saw one retrograde of Venus near Pushya and Punarvasu, just like I showed it in 5561 BCE. And now we are in October 3164 BCE, so about 1 year before the claimed timing by Sri Vedvir Aryaji for the timing of Mahabharata. Okay, so I will let Venus ride along the ecliptic until we get to the October of 3163 BCE, the time claimed by Vedvir Aryaji for the Mahabharata War. Okay, I'll just pause it for a minute there, and then we will continue, and I'll show how even for this year Venus turns northward near Purva Bhadrapada, goes retrograde, and completes that parikrama. All right, we are in October. So October 20. Now Vedvir Aryaji some places claims 25th October as the first day of the Mahabharata War and some places 26th. Okay. For our simulation, at least here, it does not matter. So this is October 25th. Okay. And if you would have gone 18 days, we already did this, so I will not repeat. That's what the simulation will show. So let's continue with the one day. And what I want you to observe is Venus slowing down, turning northward near Purva Bhadrapada, going back all the way to Shatabhisha, completing a parikrama, and that is the retrograde of Venus in the vicinity of Purva Bhadrapada as described in the Mahabharata text. Okay, so now it's crossing Shatabhisha. The next nakshatra is Purva Bhadrapada. Look, it is crossing, it has already crossed the ecliptic near Purva Bhadrapada. It's turned backward. This is its retrograde motion. It is coming close to Shatabhisha. Now it's going to turn forward again and complete the parikrama in the vicinity of nakshatra Purva Bhadrapada. All right, and then go further. All right. So that's what I wanted to show. Now, how do we analyze this? So essentially what happened is that in the year 5561 BCE, this particular observation of Venus is corroborated beautifully. But so is the case for the year 3163 BCE, projected by Vedvir Aryaji. Now, how do we decide? Well, we do not decide on one observation, okay? But as far as this particular retrograde motion of Venus is concerned, on the truth likeness score, which is a tool or which is a scoreboard for measuring the strength, the validation, corroboration, or even falsification, but corroboration of any given theory, the 5561 BC, namely yours truly's claim, gets plus 1 point. And for this specific evidence, and only this specific evidence, Vedvir Aryaji also gets plus 1 point. But let me also take this opportunity to inform you that for every other Mahabharata dating researchers, or specifically any other year other than 3163 BC and 5561 BCE, any other year out of 100 plus different years claimed by those many different Mahabharata dating researchers, they will get a score of -1, because for the year they are claiming, this particular observation of Venus going retrograde near Purva Bhadrapada by making a parikrama like formation cannot be shown. So they get -1, they get -1. That's how truth likeness score works. Okay, so that's how we are going to evaluate this. And therefore, any one specific observation, and especially unless it's a crucial evidence or clinching evidence, and if you want to know what it is, watch my previous videos where I discuss why Arundhati Vasishta observation is a crucial evidence or clinching evidence, why the set of Bhishma Nirvana evidence is a crucial evidence, clinching evidence. This evidence of Venus going retrograde is also equally beautiful, because it's not just an ordinary description, very specific. It's a planet Venus going retrograde, which is not an ordinary thing at all, and going retrograde not just some place, but going retrograde with a specific, in the context of a specific nakshatra. Even that much information is given. So near nakshatra Purva Bhadrapada. This doesn't happen every day. This does not happen every year. In fact, it would take 10-15 years before this thing repeats, or longer. And that makes this observation also a crucial observation, or a critical evidence, but not as crucial or as critical as Arundhati Vasishta or Bhishma Nirvana evidence. And this is something many of you ought to intuitively understand why that is so, and those of you who don't understand it, definitely take to the reading of Sir Karl Popper's books. If time permits, in future I may do an episode on that, but The spoon feeding can only go so much. Okay, so adhyaya pravachana is the way to learn things. There is no alternate to that. So that's it, by the way. So let me see what I have. Okay, these are my books. Definitely reading and rereading of these books will prepare you to understand all these episodes. Okay, not just understanding these episodes, but on your own. These all three books are a wonderful way to learn scientific acumen, about how a theory is formed, how a theory is tested, how the evidence is extracted, how the evidence is used to formulate the prediction. Because evidence itself is a prediction, but you have to formulate in such a way that you can objectively test it for error elimination and draw the proper inference. Okay, that's through Subbu Publications, and if you are around the world via Amazon. All right, so I think we can stop on this. Thank you for watching. I will see you in another episode very soon. Please write your comments. Yes, you may comment on what else you want me to talk about, but if you watch a specific episode such as this one, then do make a comment about what you watched, because I want to know if this was useful in the sense of, did you understand it, did you comprehend it, did that help you increase your scientific acumen, did that help you increase your comprehension skills, logical reasoning skills, and how to think properly. All right, this is the reason, or these are the reasons why I'm doing this. I'll see you soon in another episode. Namaskar.